previously, we said, the world is changing fast. We are very much familiar with, the phrase, world is so fast. But in that regard, the focus was speed, the change fast. However, this time, the speed of the change is not the only issue, but also the fact that we don't know where about the content of the change. It seems really complex because we cannot predict well. However, even this complex change shows that there are two main pillars that penetrate entire phenomenon. So, the issue is that change really asks you to choose the choice, which lead the result, which be different, either change this or change that. And every one of you may understand where, due to your major telecommunication, which is the most popular in these days, the most appropriate for the adjusting yourself in the changing environment. For now, the development of computers, internet, advancement of information and communication devices, and technology have been combined with innovative the technology that you see, such as technology in the semiconductor, display panels, information security, and artificial intelligence technologies, and many others. And the convergence is a very important word, as I mentioned. The combined with technology to technology. The previous technology should be combined with the technology emerging. And so in that regard, convergence is really important. The convergence of these innovative technologies enabled digital transformation and eventually led to the fundamental changes called the fourth industrial revolution, which you may be familiar with this, the phrase. The digital transformation, the result of this accumulation of information and telecommunication technology, coincidentally to meet with the COVID-19 pandemic, making it really difficult to predict the direction that we are going, in the direction of the changes that we are guessing. Another important pillar, I would say, is the climate change. In the past, people thought that climate change is a possible threat, which may perhaps come sometime in the future. But many experts agree that this is the last chance mankind can fight the climate change, and that if the world misses this time, it could face a great disaster. Climate change is now, for now, really on the horizon. Unlike previous time, we just thought that the climate change could come, but now everybody agrees that the climate change is the challenge which we just have in our hand. The whole world is, for the first time, reacting seriously to the imminent and absolute challenge. The imminent and absolute challenge of the climate change has created an energy transition. And so the cause is climate change, and the choice that we have is which energy we will use for the future. And so as a result, we are amazed at how fast the introduction and spread of electric vehicle is taking place, or hydrogen-powered vehicle is in the market. In the face of imminent the threat that I mentioned, the cars and factories, the biggest users of fossil fuels, are actually moving toward use of green energy, which is currently being studied in a variety of ways. For instance, hydrogen-powered vehicle and unmanned-driven cars, and in many other ways. For example, hydrogen car, that is also has a great potential. Together with the battery cars, many experts pay much attention to hydrogen car as a new, the main the machine of transportation, and also a new power source for automobiles. In this sense, these two transformations that I mentioned are the main themes of Korean New Deal strategy that I am going to talk a little bit about with you today as one of the main topics. As you saw on the slide, we went through the many changes and many challenges with regard to the changes in the technology and changes in the situation of hygiene, which caused by COVID-19. And it is already 1 year since COVID-19 began its relentless spread across the globe, and the contour lines of the global the order reshaped by the pandemic are now apparently emerging. We every day we watch the CNN and BBC and BNT1 for the issue and the situation, how serious the corona situation would be in all of the world. In this regard, COVID-19 represents a complex series of interconnected problems which ask us to choose either to decline or to rise. In this sense, I understand corona from the perspective of hygiene. It is pretty fair, but it's not that fair to the issue of OSAP or issue of economy. And so COVID-19 pandemic is rather, as I told you, the fair quarantine crisis for everyone, but individual countries and individual companies. And we, the individuals who face the crisis, face no equitable situation in terms of the perspective of the jobs and the personal wealth and what you have in the bank account. Rather, after the crisis, we'll perhaps face a huge gap, huge discrepancies, and huge change in reality between people and between business and between households and everything. And so that this is the game changer, accelerated by the following the event in relation to the hygiene crisis. This is the rationale for the justification that individual government should take stronger measures to protect the socially disadvantaged in pandemic situation, and so that every individual government is trying to intervene and trying to assist the most disadvantaged and most privileged, privileged, before the giving them a way to be survived. And to tackle this, the government is trying to intervene by announcing a huge New Deal investment plan, although each government uses different names. And so Korea is one of them, like all others. I observed that the Bulgarian government also trying to support the Bulgarian people as much as possible by making a huge investment. However, we need to be informed about transformation in some key industries, which are as important as what you see widening socio-economic gaps, either being supported by the government or being supported by the individual, the businesses and government-run the companies. The timing of the COVID-19 outbreak coincidentally coincided with the beginning of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which began to change the history of the human, the civilization. The definition, as you may well aware, of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, according to Dr. Klaus Schwab of World Economic Forum, he published his the renowned book a couple of years ago. The title, the Fourth Industrial Revolution. in the book, the definition defines the jargon like in the scale, scope, complexity. The fourth industrial revolution is unlike anything that humankind has experienced before, and also can be defined staggering confluence and staggering convergence of emerging technology breakthroughs and covering wide-ranging fields such as artificial intelligence, robotics, and Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, and 3D printing, nanotechnology, biotechnology, material science, energy storage, and quantum computing, to name a few technologies that I am sure that you have very much familiar with based on the knowledge that you are studying. And accelerated industrial development in 21st century surpasses time and space constraints. You know, before the pandemic, and you enjoy this kind of good time and industrial development make, you know, the you be able to, wherever you go, you can go, and whenever you go, you can go situation. But transportation and communication have developed further, and the contact between the people has exploded in amount, resulting in the convention industry, professional sports and restaurants and food industries and, you know, entertainment parks. As a quite very busy the regions of the time, the distance between people has been further reduced, and the larger scale cross-border movement has become more and more active. But that is a thing that you have enjoyed before the pandemic. And surprisingly enough, as you all agree, the COVID-19 virus, which has a tremendous spreading speed, caused an unprecedented crisis and long-term isolation and social distancing or kind of lifestyle. Now, every lifestyle is applied to no big exception, but everybody suffer from this kind of the situation a little bit, making all this lifestyle. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused a fundamental change involuntarily, and at the same time, coincidentally, the technical foundation that enabled the fourth industrial revolution that being laid. As most of us feel, we are now experiencing fundamental changes in our lifestyle due to fundamental changes in industries and due to COVID-19 outbreaks. Many said, and you saw this. Many said that the heart of this fundamental change is disruption of incumbents and the paradigm shift in the way of working. So this fundamental change is not just caused by ordinary changes in supply and demand or by gradual technical development. Rather, it is said that the changes, which I said fundamental, occur from the strategic inflection point or tipping point, or 변곡점 in Korean, where the unavoidable changes in social and economic aspects take place. You all, you know, observed that this kind of tipping point make everything change, not in a gradual way, but in a surprisingly fast way. So this is what I'm trying to say. In this respect, the Korean economy and industry seem to be passing a strategic inflection point, as I mentioned, where the fourth industrial revolution begins in its domestic market as the principle to be applied. Another most important fundamental changes is emphasis on environmental protection as the most important corporate performance assessment factor in responding to climate change and business ethics, which emphasize transparency and social roles. And so the market is changing in terms of the principles that are abiding by. And so, the new modality and the new principles is applied, when it comes to addressing the time of pandemic and addressing the time of industrial revolution. And so let me briefly discuss upon some new standard that the Korean market has taken as one of the important criteria for assessing the company. Recently, the environmental, social, corporate governance, which is called ESG. Many of you may aware of this. The ESG has become one of the most important criteria for assessing corporate value and the future growth prospect of company in Korean market, not only in Korean market, but also in the market in advanced countries. In order to realize this in the real world, large-scale investment institutions such as the pension fund and investment banks are mandating ESG as one of the most important criterion for determining the investment. This trend is similar in the stock market, such as in US and others, like in Europe. This comes, one very important the principle to let the larger the investment institution to decide which company they will put their investment on. So ESG in this regard refers to three key factors in measuring the environmental sustainability in responding to climate change and social impact of an investment in a company or business sector. Analysis of these the criteria thought by some to help to better determine the future performance of the company as the main criteria of the investment which they will make. On the other hand, another important features of the fourth industrial revolution, which emerged in the direction of future industries, is that it is in fact related to the staggering convergence, which breaks the boundaries between industries, as Dr. Sharp, WEF, has mentioned in his book. Let me visit briefly the transformation of digital. As you well know, digital transformation is at the center of collapse of the boundaries between the industries. Which you are witnessing now in the real industries and real market. Due to COVID-19, non-face-to-face technology, which enables people work in the work from home, has emerged as the most important technology in the pandemic period, resulting in faster digital transformation. In this regard, many experts said that foundation for digital transformation is semiconductor technology and mobile technologies. Semiconductors, for example, are also the foundation for the 5G and cloud service, which enables data storage, information distribution, information technology innovation to happen in the real world. So in that regard, Korea also put the focus on this area. Korea has the world's largest semiconductor manufacturer, the Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, as to one of the biggest the producers in the field in the world. And also Korea has the world's #1 market share in the semiconductor the market, and is also a country with the world's best technology with nano-class process technology together with the United States. along with the digital transformation that I mentioned. Even though it is not the dimension that only me made, but it is widely spoken in the field, as you may know. Another core technology of the fourth industrial revolution is to develop new sources of energy. So we may call it as energy transformation or energy conversion, responding to the threat of climate change or responding to the demand and needs of the new world, which will use more convenient the technologies. In order to meet the production demands of the fourth industrial revolution, which requires enormous energy, more efficient and eco-friendly energy sources are really needed. And so the many ways to be dealt with before finding a better solution. But anyway, fossil fuel generation that generates large amount of CO2 gas is no longer valid, given the fact that demand for carbon neutrality due to seriousness of climate change, global warming, and environmental destruction is more severe than ever. Then net zero for climate change is no longer a matter of companies or country's choice, but a matter of survival and the matter option of the no choice. So in that regard, the choice of technology is really important. And so electric cars, which will be pioneers of automotive innovation, are expected to be introduced faster and honest in the commercial market due to revolutionary the development in the battery-related technology, as you saw on the PowerPoint. The upgrading auto part industry and lightening in weight, electric the vehicle, the prices will be relatively cheaper than conventional combustion engine car price, perhaps from 2023, which is expected to secure price competitiveness and with at the time the quality. Likewise, automakers are also working on the R&D for hydrogen vehicles to address the market needs. So for that, the companies also, such as LG Chemicals and LG Energy Solution, SK Innovation, the Samsung SDI, or the leaders of the market of automobile the batteries are now leading the way in battery industry for the electric cars in the global market. And Hyundai and Kia automobile have successfully developed at the same time hydrogen-powered vehicle years ago in order to meet the market demand and in order to respond to the time that the hydrogen car will prevail in the standard. So the many ways will be delved into before the addressing the challenges and changes. Now, let me introduce a few facts about Korea to give you a prior understanding of the potential areas of cooperation between Korea and Bulgaria in post-COVID-19 pandemic context, quite briefly. But I'm not really sure how many slides I have to explain. But let me try. The population of Korea is about 41 million. The number of the foreigners is growing, mostly are from China and Southeast Asian countries, but many are from the Western world. The land size of Korea is 100,000 square meters. It is similar to the size of Bulgaria. According to IMF 2020 report, the Korea is 10th largest economy in the world in terms of the GDP, and similar to Canada and Italy. If I look at the economy a bit closer, Korea's per capita GNI is about 31,000 US dollars. The country joined the 30-50 club in 2018 as its seventh member after the United States, Japan, Germany, France, the UK, and Italy. And what is the 30-50 club? It differs to countries whose GDP per capita surpasses the 30,000 US dollar and with the population exceeding the 50 million. Quite a sizable. The Korean economy is comparatively stable with a growth rate at 0.5 to 3% before the pandemic. And over the pandemic, the Korean economy recorded just minus 1%, comparatively well, despite the sharp decline in the economy at the early stage of the pandemic in the world. So making making itself the least hit country among OECD members. 1960s, from 1960s to 1970s, 80s, Korea experienced really surprising fast the economic development. The overall economy indicators of the Korea for 2020 are perhaps surprising compared to 1960s, when the country was one of the poorest countries in the world. The Korea has overcome the current crisis by innovation, digital transformation, and energy conversion, and has become the 10th largest economy in the world. Looking at these kind of figures, many people say that the process of Korea's economic development is quite a puzzle, more so than it is a miracle. And less than 50 years of development past, the per capita GDP in 1970s was 280 US dollars. In 2018, it became more than 30,000 US dollars, quite 110 times in less than 50 years time. And so that's why the many people said that it is surprisingly fast in terms of the reaching to the point of reaching. In 1970, Korea had $835 million in export and $1.98 billion in import. Total is slightly less than 3 billion. But in 2020, the trade volume of Korea exceeded 1 trillion USD, making the country the seventh or sixth largest trading country in the world. As many researchers and professors in the political economy have said, Korea used export-driven economy policies, and its statistical data clearly shows the effectiveness of export-driven economy policy, which Korea has taken since 1970s. No, but there is some kind of debate between the scholars which way prefer export-driven economy or the export, not export, the import substitution economy, before as taken by some developing countries in Latin America and Southeast Asia countries. And let's move away from the volume to look at the technology level. As you may see, Korea ranked third in the world with Japan in a survey of the world's largest market share in major high-tech products. This is released and published by the Nihon Keizai Shimbun, one of the leading Japanese newspapers last year. The US ranked first and China ranked second, and Korea and Japan ranked third out of all the advanced countries in the world. The following 7 items are major products that Korea ranked first in the world market share. Those are smartphones, DRAMs, NAND flash memories, QLED TVs, mainly produced by Samsung Electronics, OLED panels, mainly produced by Samsung Display, the large LCD panels, LG Electronics as a producer, and the shipbuilding, the Hyundai Heavy Industries. Hyundai Heavy Industry is the biggest one in shipbuilding in the world. As many scholars agree, the Korea case is very exceptional because many developing countries have shown the phenomenon of being fallen to a trap of middle-income country when they reach a certain level of income, despite their early good start in the economic development process. You may have heard many times about the trap of middle-income country. So as the trade volume increase and their inflation rate and the competitiveness in the market is comparatively going down, and it is looks like unavoidable being fallen into the trap. And so, Korea is one of the exceptional countries who are not, falling down into the trap in some way. If we think about the Korea's economic policies taken past decade, you will be able to find several important junctures, areas of important choice. And as I mentioned earlier in the lecture, and always choice makes difference, whether positive or negative. According to the number of analysts in Korean economy, they are professors and experts, Korea did not resort to the economic development, the methodology, which is import substitution industrialization strategy that was prescribed by the scholars of the advanced countries and advocated by international organizations, as they had once advised policymakers in Latin America and Southeast Asia. I am not the expert in the political economy debate like this, but anyway, Korea just made a successful example, of taking the export-led trade policy. Contrary to the advice of the scholars and the aid agencies in advanced countries, Korea at the time chose an export-driven economy development strategy, ended up, having some kind of the good outcome out of it. Perhaps Korea's rapid economic development is practically possible because Korea, in a sense, distanced from the advice of the scholars in the advanced countries. And I don't make the international organizations and international the research, the institution, be humbled. But anyway, we have some kind of the different experiences. For the case of Korea in 1960s and 70s, we're a small country without a large the population and without the large natural resources. What if the Korea focused on domestic demand? What would have happened? So we can imagine. The next topic I would say is that the transformation or transit from the corona crisis as a kind of the place for comfort. Let's take a look at the COVID-19 crisis in terms of the opportunity to transform the economy and industry to a totally different way. Many experts argue that the COVID-19 is caused by contamination of the Earth's ecological environment and massive deforestation, like the Amazon, Amazon is very famous, not only in the IT sector, but also in the natural resources. But deforestation, the made in Amazon, to make the bigger negative impact, and so that has something to do with the many problems that we had in this argument. This argument will naturally lead to stricter environmental regulations to be taken by the government, and the development of cleaner and more sustainable energy technologies are now on the way, and also development of on-tech technology to protect humans from infectious disease like coronavirus is also the very regarded as an important the means to be researched and to be taken. Eventually, the wave of industry will change its direction, and the economic system and the companies that are the best adapted will flourish, will prosper. Otherwise, different story. So Korea is taking this challenge very seriously, and who knows how the world will take the issues. But anyway, the result will be very important. Currently, the whole world, including Korea and Bulgaria, is in crisis of COVID-19. But Korea, as a country, experienced a major crisis in 1997 during Asian financial crisis, so to speak, and placed a huge amount of national wealth of Korea transferred to the outside the country and to others who have prepared better in the situation. So we are the most deprived, out of the Asian crisis, but it gives us the impetus to overcome as faster as possible. And so this seems the good experience for the Korean people, Korean government, how to address the challenges by the making the consensus between the people to respond to the challenges. Like the Asian financial crisis in 1997, COVID-19 pandemic, also unprecedented health and economic crisis, also brought unexpected changes to the world. And so, at the very beginning of the outbreak, everybody thought that this is a matter of hygiene issues. But over the period of the suffering, the people come to recognize that this is more economic problem, with regard to the matter of being unemployed, being in a distressed situation. So that it is a very complex issues to be dealt with. The choice at the time of crisis will determine the rise and fall of the nation and individuals, and the choice will also determine how they will participate in the wave of new industrial revolution. And so all are in the same the line which connect to each other. And so, as Steve just mentioned in the ceremony in Stanford University, and we would not be able to see what will happen afterward, but we can the retrospect the dots, how dots can be connected with the dots which is taken in the past, so that this has something to do with the way that we address the challenges. This is the list displays 14 Korean companies in the Fortune Global 500, which ranks the world's largest companies by annual revenue. And the world-class Korean companies listed in the Fortune 500 in 2020 are mostly companies in the field of ICT technology, automobiles, as you see, steel, semiconductor, auto parts, finance and banking, and construction and energy. All are the subject in the engineering school. And this list is based on the Forbes, the Global 2000, published 2019, which ranks the world's 20 largest trade companies. The list takes into account a multitude of factors, including the revenue, net profit, total assets, and market value. Among the list, the 62 the Korean companies are listed. And the comparison between the Forbes 2000 list we saw previously and the Fortune 500 list, we can analyze what sector the Korean economy consists of and what these compositions imply. Let's expand the scope a little and look at the 62 Korean companies that are included in the top 2,000 companies in the world by size: semiconductor, automotive, information and telecommunication technology, finance, energy, and chemical at the center, as you have seen in Fortune 500. But internet technology, retail, heavy machinery, food production, shipbuilding, and aviation industry follows when you expand the scope. And so this shows that, you know, even though it's partly on the ground taken by Korean companies, you know, together with the world in some way, but we may see the direction the market will go, you know, by analyzing the companies on the list in the global the market evaluation articles, and so we also may see rise and fall of the company. The rise and the falls of major companies shown here clearly illustrate the changes in global market environment. Corporate value has risen due to expansion of IT market, such as semiconductors and data-related industries, such as clouding services. In addition, chemical sector is also growing due to increased demand for electric vehicle, the battery sectors. And the strong the growth in IT sector, which is led by Samsung Electronics, for the case of Korea, a comprehensive information and communication technology company, and also, you know, the semiconductor the producer is very solid. Now, you know, Samsung, the portion in Korean economy is big because annual the trade the Samsung made is well over 300 billion US dollars. And so Samsung Electronics are ranked 8th in Forbes World Most Valuable Brand 2020, considering that Coca-Cola, which ranks 6th, the number 1 from Apple, all are number 6 to 7 from the first to 6th, all are US company, and Samsung is the highest ranking in the companies other than the US. And so we can see how innovative Samsung really are in terms of development of new technology addressing to the changes and challenges. If we look at the list of Global 2000 companies, we can see the list of 62 companies of the included. The many I've already mentioned many times, but you know, the thing is that semiconductor and energy and the data processing are at the core, and so we can also see, you know, the movement of the market in some way Korean companies which are growing on the world stage are also facing fierce and difficult competition as they face huge challenges and huge changes due to the aftermath of COVID-19 pandemic and emergence of the new demand of course, the Industrial Revolution. And by addressing these challenges, as the Korean Chamber of Commerce and Industry said, if Korean companies don't overcome this crisis well, Korea can ultimately run out of the growth sources. And so, in order to avoid this kind of situation, the most important what they should do is being innovative, in my understanding, and the understanding that is shared by the other the experts. As a solution to it, companies should strive to develop various business models with new technologies and innovative ideas. In that regard, the government role is also important, even though it is not a matter that we expect in the Economy 101, which allow the company and the private sector take a leading role. But anyway, in the time of pandemic, in the time of crisis, in the time of change, the government should do something, and the government should overhaul the system and platforms to help create new opportunities and markets by taking measures which bring more transparency and prevent moral hazard, along with the quite a sizable investment in nurturing their pretty weaker sectors. COVID-19 pandemic and the fourth industrial revolution will deepen the emergence of the super gap society. Currently, the global economy is moving toward a K recovery, which recovers as the gap discrepancies between sectors and classes widens, not the V recovery that was originally expected. And so K means that the area sector benefited is going better and better as time goes on, and the deprived is going worse and worse as time goes on. And so the pandemic is not the thing that everybody is equally affected. The days of high growth is over. It is pretty much agreeable. However, the days of opportunities are still there. Different forms of big changes will widen the gap between those who adapt to change and those who do not. So, for country to thoroughly analyze the nature of change and predict its direction is really critical, in that it determines the situation after the change is passed. In the era of the rapid change, sticking to existing stereotypes is a fast way to collapse very quickly. And so rigidness is the secret how well we are prone to be collapsing. And the combination of the COVID-19 pandemic and the fourth industrial revolution is rapidly undergoing fundamental changes. And so, as I mentioned earlier several times, digital transformation and energy conversion for addressing the challenges of climate change is the key concept of the Korean company in taking the Korean version of New Deal. We all know well that if we fall behind this tremendous speed and enormous amount of the change, we will eventually be forced to go down the path of collapse. Widening a gap can never be narrowed by the leading partners or countries. Tremendous changes caused by the COVID pandemic called on Korean companies to be more eco-friendly more innovative and more transparent, more horizontally communicated, promptly adapted to the market need, to be more sensitive to changing technology. And so many Korean companies are striving to innovate, to adapt the current situation and trying to become a leader in the field. However, they understand that the jobs or the companies that fail to innovate will be declining as other areas flourish. And higher up the income ladder, remote offices and work from home suddenly became the norm. And we all experienced this kind of the new norms. One study found that 2/3 of US, the GDP in May 2020 was generated by people working at home. Many companies told their employees to stay away from the office, and some even signaled that they will make flexible work for a long time for making more money. So while COVID-19 situation is improving in some countries due to widespread vaccines, most other countries are still in a difficult situation, so that we have to change our prior concept that everything will come back, as we enjoyed a long time ago, so that the new norm will be the new norm for the future. In some way, we need to take it very seriously to discuss the phenomenon in which restrictions which were introduced to prevent the spread of COVID-19 becomes routine or norm, and also need to consider the acceleration of the post-industrial revolution through convergence between various technologies and the different industries and different expertise. Again, the government actively, by taking this opportunity in this crisis, promoted the digital transformation policy, even under the pandemic situation. The government actively supported new energy and environmental industries in response to climate change while putting huge financial resources. Now, Korean government policy response to the needs of post-industrial revolution is concentrated in two ways. Digital transformation, essential for realizing the advanced the technology and the innovative and comprehensive the research and technology development to prevent the challenges in the market, which is in relation with the climate change and the new technical needs. In recognition of the need of effectively respond to the COVID-19 crisis and further use of crisis as an opportunity to turn around, the Korean government announced last year a large investment plan worth $133 billion for 5 years, from 2020 to 2025, for assisting the industries of these focused areas. It's quite the supporting money, but trying to ignite the company to invest for their prosperity. And so, as we saw a New Deal in 1930s in the Great Depression, when Franklin Roosevelt was at the time the U.S. president, and then to the invest by the government to the deprived, to the area where the demand is not generated. The investment, the huge investment plan, like the U.S. The cases, the Korean New Deal in 2021 proposed not only a way out of the economic crisis, but also a fast track for nationwide digital transformation and advancement to innovative energy conversion technology and also the means for supporting the people who are most deprived. And so the Korean New Deal, kind of the New Deals, which is observed in many countries. But we can witness commonalities in the policy emphasized on digitalization and green energy conversion and the supporting to the disadvantaged people. And in that regard, Korean New Deal revolves around the three pillars, which I already mentioned several times. Let's take a look at this a little bit more. In the face of COVID-19, the Korean government established a Korean the economy policy, by making the commitment, the investment, enormous amount of investment by using the budget in digital transformation, digital infrastructure building, and energy transformation, and the new semiconductor technology, the research, and the pharmaceutical and the chemical, the researches, to make this, the policy happen in the real world. Korean government to select several areas of technology, more in detail, such as data technology, non-memory semiconductor technology, network technology, which will be based on the 5G and 6G, and 5G already commercialized for the first time by the Samsung Electronics several years ago, but they are looking for advancing the technology toward the 6G. And artificial technology, also the Samsung and LG now they're putting a huge investment on, the interaction with the US, the high-tech the farms, and also eco-friendly green energy, solar power, hydrogen batteries for electric cars. All those are the strategic focus, which is selected not only by the government, international companies as the focus area. And so the plan is set, and so the actors are now moving forward. For implementation, the Korean government will first invest in 25 to 4 projects by 2025, creating 550,000 jobs using about 70 billion out of the total government budget of 133 billion US dollars. If we look at the areas that Korea is interested in, strengthening data, network, artificial intelligence, digitalizing SOC, fostering non-contact industries, and green remodeling of urban spaces and infrastructure, creating innovative the green visions and industry, expanding low carbon distributed energy sources. Those are the few that the Korean government and the businesses make commitment in investing their resources. It is known that Korea has already secured global competitiveness in many leading technologies like semiconductor and automobile industry, IT, telecommunications, smartphone, flat displays, and electric vehicle batteries. Based on this, Korea was able to determine its focus responding to the changes. And so all are already discussed a little bit. And so that let me stop here in terms of the discussion of the area of focus in the technology sector. But if I add some, in order to commercialize newly developed advanced technology, the Korean government is also established a strategy to create a domestic market first by making a preemptive investment in order to implement spillover effect in related areas, in related industries, and to support economies of scale in the strategic sector where initial investment is needed. And I understand all of you are studying and majoring in the telecommunication related subject, and so you may be able to understand well what spillover effect between the technology that I mentioned together in the relation with the relevant industries. So since 2018, Korean industries have been talking about digital transformation. Most large-sized Korean companies are now on the way. So the topic is very clear, and the main trend is very clear: energy and the digital. And so this is the area you may well aware, area for the jobs. And so on the contrary, some conventional and traditional area in terms of the number of work positions is declining, but at the same time, these two or three areas, including the social network, social supporting network, will be flourish and making the creating the more works to be high. However, if allow me, and I just drop by very briefly on the how related the main area of technology, which is new cars, to the government policies, New Deal, concentrated on the digital transformation. The new cars of the fourth industrial revolution, electric cars and self-driving cars and many others, of great importance in energy to move, considering that the emergency of electric cars is basically a response to climate change through the reduction of fossil fuel use. In addition, in an effort to reduce the weight of cars to streamline battery use, the development of the parts and the material industry is also very essential. And so the study of the material engineering is at the key in terms of the commercializing the electric cars on the market. In addition, in the case of safety, the hypothesis that artificial intelligence and 5G technology will raise the safety of unmanned cars to a very high level has already proved true in reality. Google has already demonstrated this. But on the contrary, as the rate of accident is dramatically reduced, how come the insurance business will be? And so I don't think the industry, the insurance business will be benefited much on the new car, the innovation. The most another important the technologies for artificial intelligence and 5G, which is applied to the new cars, technology related to the transmission and also storage and the processing of information, and foundation of these is the basic technology, semiconductor technology. Without the development of semiconductors, neither unmanned vehicles nor electric vehicles can be possibly commercialized. As has already been explained, electric vehicles are a favorite digital transformation technology and energy technology together in a combined form. And the front and the rear effect of technological development, the jointly developed related technology fields are very large. This is why Korea has selected the future car technology as the core fostering the technology, the area in the era of fourth industrial revolution. I think these areas of interest, which I have mentioned earlier, have a lot in common with those Bulgaria including digital and energy, including also the development of innovative technology. The prospect for the cooperation between our two countries are bright in that there are many excellent professionals and the students in the field. So the demand is already set, and the issue is that how to make those kind of demand effective on the ground. We understand that Korea and Bulgaria together have many excellent human resources in digitalized industries, software development, ICT, and energy technology, and so on. The kind of part is in common that the countries can leverage each other and each other's strengths to create the bigger synergy effect for the practical cooperation. Taking the need of cooperation in 2017, Korean Prime Minister Inagel Chongni visited Bulgaria, and the Bulgarian Prime Minister, His Excellency Boyko Borisov, visited Korea in 2019. In 2020, President of Republic of Korea, His Excellency Moon Jae-in, and the Bulgarian Prime Minister made a phone call to discuss about the cooperation to the COVID-19 crisis. These are really important foundations for bilateral cooperation for the companies and individuals who wishes to work together. At the same time, the young talent from both countries are very familiar with everyday innovation. On top of that, there are many people with abundant expertise that combine vibrant creativity and innovative ideas with the ability to apply them to reality. Lastly, but not leastly, to mention one more thing, in my observation, Bulgarian students and experts quickly become familiar with the foreign culture and have the less resistance to the different the cultures and way of life. They are very open-minded, and in that regard, we have quite the strong the foundation work together because the Korean people are also very open-minded. This friendly and flexible attitude were for us many advantages. In addition, cultural content, when combined with technology, is upgraded to high value-added product to generate bigger revenue and bigger profits, and also the making a way to forward, for the both of us to the prosperity. In my view, there's many areas for Koreans and Bulgarians if they make a good partnership to have a high potential for success by applying technology that will help our society respond to COVID-19 pandemic and the new needs of new trend of technology. Thank you for listening to my long lecture. I'm really sorry to take the more time than I was given. And, once again, I would like to thank the Professor Temelkova, Professor Georgieva, the leadership of the privileged and prestigious university, University of Telecommunications and Post, for inviting me to this very honorable occasion for lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your extremely valuable lecture and for sharing your views with our audience. I believe this session was interesting for our students, alumni, and colleagues. And now, may I kindly invite you to answer some questions given from the audience. Please, dear colleagues, dear students, have you Any questions? Please, our international manager, Mr. Boris Stanimirov.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your extremely precise summary of the growth model of Korea. I would like to ask you, what's the role of the higher education institutions in Korea in this Korea New Deal? And do you have a specific model of partnership between academic and business, between universities and companies, to reach these ambitious goals? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Director, for your excellent questions. Frankly speaking, that is the core for the competitiveness that Korea, the business has obtained so far, because without the support of the researchers and the talented students and the companies and the government would not be able to make this kind of adaptation to the new technology possible. And so my understanding and the reality on the ground is that over 300 universities in Korea now, more than the million students they attended. About 40% of the total students are majoring in the engineering and natural sciences. And they are a good resources for making this the high tech the possible. And also we have quite a number of students who studied in the States and the European countries for the engineering and natural sciences. And they also be many times invited by the major Korean companies to join. And for example, on the 2 months ago, the top the professor in the U.S. university, the Korean scholar, was hired by Samsung as a top manager for artificial intelligence, for he taking the role for making the innovative the technology on top of the already given the technologies Samsung had. And so the exchanges between the universities and research labs and also between the countries are the key core part to the enabling the participant to develop the technology in some way. And so in Korea, research institute and universities are the essential, the core part of this innovation policies. And so the lectures that I made with regard to the Korean version of the New Deal, which attract 133 billion US dollars, the main part be invested in educating the engineering students for them to participate the research course for the technologies that is needed on the market. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for your answer. And other questions from the audience, please?
I have a question, if I may.
Associated Professor Grigor Mikhailov, please.
Thank you. Your Excellency, thank you for this inspiring speech. We all know that in South Korea, some of the major technologies in the world, providing a great number of patents each year, even in the COVID-19 pandemic. But please tell us, which is the major driver for this technological progress? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for your difficult question to answer. Anyway, even though what I was trying to say are not fully the quality checked by the Yomon experts, but anyway, the drivers that I thought in terms of the giving the boost for the Korean development and the technological development that you mentioned is that the situation of Korea. Korea is a country with quite a small territory and no natural resources and pretty sizable the population, 51 million in a very small sized territory. And so that no way but developing the technology in order to get a means of survival. And so the thing is that the export, as I mentioned in my the lecture, is the main sources of revenue and main sources of the day-to-day life resources. And so that in order to export much, and you have to get more competitiveness in the market. Without that, no way but being in the situation of hunger, and so that the competitiveness is the main driver, which the Korean the companies and government are pursuing, and also ended up obtaining the competitiveness, and they will have another driver to push it forward, having maturity of the technology which they have in their mind, in their hand. So that I mentioned that the demand for the competitiveness could be the main the driver for the Korean economy. Thank you. Sorry for my the subjective the observation to answering your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. So, one moment, please. An official farewell address will be delivered to you soon by our rector during a personal meeting. And we hope that this was just the beginning of UTP's cooperation with Korea, and that fruitful contact between our university and Korean counterparts will follow. And we strongly rely on your support to establish them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Director, for the good comment. And again, I just congratulate on the your 140th anniversary, and also taking this opportunity. I just introduced one kind of exchange the program for the students, which is sponsored and financed by the Ministry of Education in Korea. Every year, or slightly more than 10 the students be selected to be the student in a Korean school and Korean graduate schools. Quite a nice the program to join, and one the representing case is that called KIST, Korean Institute for Advanced the Technology and Science offer very generous offer to graduate students who major in engineering. They covered all their expenses and their tuitions and the boarding, together with the good offices for letting them be able to the research, for the 4 to 5 years time, all the way up to the time of completion of their PhD. And KIST is one which is listed the very high quality, the top the research the institute, educational and research institute in the world, and also the very fine equipped by very fine the labs and experimental sort of the institutes. Invite the graduate student to come, if qualified, and promote your student to as many as possible to apply for the opportunity provided by the KIST for their advanced study. Thank you.
So thank you very much for this opportunity and invitation for our students. Thank you so much. So.
Thank you, and thank you for your good word for my the departure of this beautiful country in less than a month's time. And I'm very much honored and privileged to share very happy time with your faculties and your students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Rector.
Thank you very much. And
thank you.
Please, Director.
Thank you. See you later.
See you.
See you later. All the best for you and your future work. Thank you very much. We close. Have a nice day.
Bye.